Alright, we are at week 5 now. We've been doing this for a while, and I haven't been in front of the camera yet, so this is my first week being the one who is shot rather than shooting, and this was the photographer for this week. This is Kevin Mooney. He is a photography professor here at IU, and why don't you tell everybody about what projects you worked on or who you worked with in the past in regards to photography.
Prior to coming here to IU, I was a commercial photographer in Chicago doing editorial or magazine work, did some commercial work, some advertising, started teaching at Columbia College in 2002, came down to IU in the fall of 2005 to start my MFA, graduated in May of 2008 and have been working here for the most part off and on since the spring of 2009 as a visiting assistant professor and as an adjunct professor.
And he's actually currently my professor, so that's just how that works.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, please don't fail me.
I work for numerous magazines, some international, mostly here in the States, ranging from Life magazine when it was still around, National Geographic, a lot of some regional magazines, big one in Chicago called Chicago Magazine, Forbes, Business Week, Outside Magazine, the trade magazines, Remodeler, which no one will ever see because it's a trade magazine, Sports Illustrated for Kids.
Jeez.
I shot for a lot of magazines.
You've been all over the place.
The ones that I worked for consistently quite a bit were Chicago Magazine, Forbes, Business Week, Money, stuff like that. And shooting primarily editorial portraits for them, illustrating stories that were within the magazine.
So just like, when you say portraits, what do you mean? Because normally portraits is like this section of your face.
Well, sometimes it was when I kind of generalize editorial portraits. If it's a photograph of the individual that was showcased in the story. So a lot of times they were just sort of a headshot, but other times it was more of an environmental portrait with them in context to their location or the story that was being done. Sometimes it was out of the studio or out of their office. For an example, I did a photograph of Tony George, who is the owner, or was the owner of the Indianapolis 500, and photographed him actually on the Brickyard, which is the set of bricks at the Indianapolis 500. So instead of being in his office, we were actually on location in the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Wow.
So it varied.
Yeah.
I traveled a lot. I was based in Chicago, and my region pretty much was, say, Detroit, St. Louis, Iowa, Minneapolis, Indianapolis. Anything further, they would probably look for a photographer that was closer to the location. But I traveled as far. I've traveled to California for jobs, to Alaska for jobs, to Asia for jobs.
Oh my gosh. So why did you, what are you working on now? And why did you transition from being in all these magazines and all over the place to being a professor and working on the project you're on now?
Well, a friend of mine at Columbia College tried for 10 years to get me to teach at Columbia. So I would see her once or twice a year, run into her at an opening or someplace, and she would go, "Hey, Kevin, how'd you like to teach at Columbia College?" And I said, I don't think so.
Not interested.
Wasn't interested. And as I got older, I had I had a couple of, one of my professors in undergrad thought I would be a good teacher, and evidently Elizabeth did, and so she pursued me for 10 years. So I finally relented, and once I started teaching, I really embraced it, and she then encouraged me to go back to school and get my MFA so I could actually find a full-time teaching position or a tenure track position. So in the fall of '05, I started school here and graduated, and I don't regret it. I enjoyed my career as a commercial photographer, commercial editorial photographer, but I really enjoy my career as a teacher. I enjoy teaching.
I would think that it would be really chaotic to be a commercial photographer as well, because you're constantly like, I would think you'd be looking for jobs constantly because they're kind of short stints.
Yes, that's very much the case. It's, for the most part, there's an old adage, old saying that you're only as good as your last job. So if you screw up your last job, more than likely that person is not going to hire you again.
Yeah.
And it's a very close-knit community, and you get referrals a lot, and if somebody said, oh man, don't work with that person, you can sink your career rather quickly. So it behooves you to do a good job and make sure that the client's happy. As long as the editor, the client, is happy, more than likely you'll get rehired again.
Right.
So, and I did it for close to between 20 and 25 years.
Oh my gosh.
As a photographer, as a commercial photographer, running my own business. And you have good years, you have lean years, you have I'm making it years, and going, woohoo, I've got lots of money. But it's a roller coaster ride. It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
But they usually say if you can survive your first 5 years in business, 5 to 7 years in business, you're doing okay. And I was in business for over 20.
Wow. So what projects are you working on now?
So I work on multiple things right now, or projects simultaneously. The one that I'm really focusing on is a first-person, third-person perspective of what I do on a daily basis.
So, like, photographs though, right?
I'm shooting still photographs, and then I'm taking those still photographs and I'm bringing them into a program and animating them into a
Movie?
stop motion video / movie / document of what I do on a daily basis.
How, currently, how long is the span of footage?
Well, if I started this 3.5 years ago.
And you shoot how many, like on average, how many photos do you shoot every day?
Well, when I first started it was, say, anywhere from 300 to 800. Now it's anywhere from 300 to, the other day I shot more than 10,000.
10,000 in one day.
So yeah, there's more than 10,000 images in one day.
Wow. And what is your end goal with shooting all of these? Are you wanting to just compile them all together and just play them forever in a theater, or?
I see it ultimately presented on 12 monitors running simultaneously that are looped, so you can kind of compare what's going on one compared to what's going on the other, and the 12 monitors would represent a month's time, and that month would probably, for the most part, they kind of all even out. I mean, I get these little spikes where I shoot 10,000 images, which
So
usually
some months will be longer.
some months will be longer, some will be shorter, but for the most part, they'll be about the same amount of time. So anywhere from, say, 25 to 45 minutes.
Okay. And the shoot that we did yesterday, I'm calling it Bag of Tricks. I wanted to know how that correlated to what you were doing. So.
Well, that became part of what I do on a daily basis. I thought it worked out really well, partially just because it will work into the daily narrative quite well about what yesterday was in relationship to me and how you became a part of that.
Happy birthday!
In terms of how it fits in, it's just going to it'll signify an aspect of what that day was in the grand scheme of things. Compared to the same day a year ago, there are aspects of it that are going to be very identical. This little surprise birthday bag of tricks will really help inform viewers that are watching it, if anybody ever watches it, if I ever get it done. I call it It's About Time, and it's, as a number of my friends say, it's about time you're working on this thing. And it relates to, it's about the time span of working on it, whether it's a first person or third person perspective, the amount of time that I have been working on it. So it all
Right.
sort of comes together.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down and talking with me
My
today.
pleasure.
And thank you guys for watching again. And there are links I'm going to post a link to his website so you can see some of his work. And then, as always, the links for my stuff are underneath this video. And thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll have more cool photos next week.